Hello, all you patrons. Here we are. We're finally back. Sorry for the week off. We're back up this week.
We are indeed. And you notice, in honor of Thanksgiving, they've come dressed as Puritans and Puritan ladies with cylindrical hats and the blunderbuss guns and the scarlet letter on the one lady. I mean, it's really, they're getting in the spirit. They're really getting into the spirit. I mean, what can I say?
Celebrating, well, what does Puritan's empire mean?
Well, what it means, frankly, is that Puritanism is the basic underpinning, animating philosophy of the American Commonwealth.
Is that still true?
Oh yeah, I mean it's not true in the sense of religious faith at all. But what's true about it is certain residual attitudes. First and foremost, of course, the idea that we're the chosen people. American exceptionalism, the shining city on the hill, the last best hope of mankind. Or for our woke brethren, just like Unitarianism was the flip side of religious Calvinism, wokery, we're the worst country that ever was, founded in slavery or founded in genocide and built up by slavery. That's the flip side of American exceptionalism, the way that Unitarianism is of Calvinism. But as with all Calvinist peoples, we tend to think of ourselves as the chosen people and our opponents as Canaanites and so forth. But there's more. I mean, the whole Puritan work ethic, the idea that God will reward his elect with financial goodies in the here and now. That's very much a part of our culture. And similarly, anything that isn't profitable immediately or doesn't make obvious money is either suspect or just not worth a serious person's time, whether it be the arts or conservation or education, which is why we've tended to leave those things into the hands of the left.
What do you mean? Because I was going to challenge you on the conservation bit. Because I was going to say, what do you mean by conservation? Ecological conservation?
Yeah, I was. Which, oddly enough, in Europe and elsewhere, was always considered a right-wing deal. But in America, all that stuff is left to the left.
Wait, why is it to the left of the left?
It is left to the left. Well, because it's not obviously profit-making. And so we get into this weird deal whereby in America, conservatives or right-wingers or whatever are supposed to be in favor of raping the environment for anything for a profit. Whereas the left says that, that shows how terrible the capitalists are and that we're the stewards of the land and, in touch with nature and so on. But both sides have glommed on to different elements of the Puritan heritage.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's interesting.
I mean, the idea that the poor are either not worth the time of consideration because they're lazy and stupid, or contrary-wise, that those who have that attitude are themselves the unwashed and unclean. It's the substrata of the American mind.
I see. Well, the thing that I always think about, or that at least that I always hone in on, is I feel like Puritanism is what non-religious people assume all religious people are, is Puritans.
Non-religious Americans do. But even their approach to religion is suffused with Calvinism. It's the revolt against it. It's Unitarian. I mean, the thing is, if you're in revolt against something, you're still tied to it.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
And it's pretty true. The only way you could really be said to be totally disconnected from it, is if you didn't care one way or the other.
Interesting.
Well, but apart from the Puritan heritage of our great nation, I prefer to think of Thanksgiving as a time to be thankful, which is something we don't do often enough. And of course, to eat turkey, lots of it. Did I mention turkey?
Don't forget that pumpkin pie.
Oh, I won't forget the pumpkin pie. I won't forget the stuffing. I won't forget the mashed potatoes, the gravy, the sweet potatoes, or yams if you prefer, or both. And of course, the ever-present green bean casserole, which can never be escaped, no matter what you try to do.
All right, as tempting as it is for me to ask you to delve into your past week, what's coming up in the future for Thanksgiving, we're gonna save it for the full episode. We're very egalitarian here at Tumble House.
Oh, when did that start? When did that begin? Is that some new policy? I didn't get the memo. No, I that's the kind of thing you could send me off pouting. You don't want to do that. You don't want me to pout.
All right. All right. So for the questions, we've got
questions.
Yeah.
Questions.
4 questions from Don from Florida. Super fan Don from Florida. Good to hear from you again. He says, what are your thoughts on the reign of Franz Josef of Austria-Hungary? What impact did his reign have on the events that would unfold in Europe in the first half of the 20th century?
Well, Franz Josef was an interesting character, a fascinating man, inescapable over here, of course. His image is everywhere in Central Europe. You can't get away from him. But he started out, I mean, his legacy is mixed. He started out, at the age of 17, he had the tottering empire put into his hands, and the family basically said, "Save us, save the thing." So he proceeded to do so. He married for love, which turned out to be a mistake, because his wife was the beautiful, glamorous, devout in her way, artistic, but somewhat unstable Wittelsbach Princess Elizabeth, who has been immortalized as Sisi. And there's a ton of Sisi kitsch around here that you can buy if you're really keen on that kind of thing. And this unfortunate marriage, in retrospect, produced a lot of problems. His son, Rudolph, had a lot of his mother's temperament, which wasn't that much of a blessing. And of course, the tragedy at Meyerling was, and it has to be borne in mind that poor Franz Josef's personal life was a string of tragedies. The murder of his brother in Mexico, the murder or suicide of his son, the murder of his wife, and then the murder of his heir and nephew. So none of that was very pleasant. But as the years went by, became more of a symbol than anything else. The first civil servant of the state. He kept horrendous hours. It was an endless workhorse. But he did enjoy some things, the arts and so forth, and he was a great hunter. Interesting fellow. He made one huge diplomatic / political mistake, which would have terrible repercussions for the world and for Austria. And that was that as a follow-up to 1848, 1849, when he was able to put down the Hungarian uprising with the help of the Russians. In 1853, the Tsar of Russia came and asked for his help in return when the French, the British, and the Sardinians and the Turks took them on in the Crimean War. He decided to remain neutral. Well, this was a mistake, because when he needed allies, which would come in dealing with Prussia and Sardinia, he didn't have any. And so Austria was pushed out of Italy, pushed out of Germany, and in the end became a junior partner to Germany. And that, in the end, led to the debacle that was World War One. An Austria-Hungary that retained its power in Central Europe and was a Russian ally, well, it would have been a very different world.
I see.
But, it's on these small decisions, big things sometimes rest.
All right. Another question from Don. He says,
Okay.
I have recently cultivated the hobby of coin collecting and was wondering if you had a favorite coin minted under a Catholic monarch.
Well, indeed. Neither one of which do I own. There's the Louis d'Or, the gold French coin of Louis XIV, and the Austrian, I think what it's called, another big gold coin with Franz Josef. And I suppose the Maria Theresia Thaler should be mentioned.
What years?
Well, the Louis d'Or were in the 18th century. The Franz Josef coin was late 19th century. The Maria Theresia Thaler, oddly enough, was not just minted during her reign, but for 100 years later in other countries like Ethiopia.
Wow.
Yeah, well, they didn't trust local currency.
Right. As residents of California, when Charles is not abroad, under the tyranny of Gavin Pelosi, what would it take for you to finally leave your home state for good?
That's a hard question. Well, of course, my home state's New York, so I guess if my parents moved me back from California, if they come alive again and take me back to New York, that might do it. No, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what it would take, but I don't know when I'll go back. It's I graduate from here. I graduate from here in 2023, and I'm scheduled to return. But who knows what state things will be in then? I mean, what if I come back to find the tower a smoking wreck, and the Franchini family having moved on to greener pastures? Who knows? I don't.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me as well, because my wife has her parents here and her brother, and then I have obviously my family here. So packing up and leaving is no bueno, especially because my mom is elderly. So it'd probably have to be like like sort of a Grapes of Wrath situation, you know what I mean? Where it's like the whole Joad family gets on the wagon and then
just moves on across the country. Yeah. It's a hard thing. I mean, you got to bear in mind too that for all of its many annoyances, California does have several attractions that aren't going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
The chief of which is...
Go on.
The weather.
Oh, attractions. Yeah. Attractions. I mean, weather's good, but I always fancy that I can handle normal seasons.
You can, trust me.
Yeah.
And I actually prefer them to the endless summer.
Yeah.
But you can get every kind of Asian food you can imagine, and Mexican food. I tell you, I thought I was going to explode when I finally found a good Mexican joint in Vienna. But I'll tell you, until then, it was hellish. And I love Austrian food, don't get me wrong. But, there are times when, You just got to have that bowl of pozole.
That's good. Yeah, I feel
You know,
that.
and I
Yeah.
had my first Kentucky Fried Chicken in 4 years today, and it was okay, but uh,
A little different.
let's just say it was closer to original style than anything else, but it wasn't quite. And what I really like is the mixed bag of original and extra crispy.
Mm, yeah.
I like having both.
Yeah. I guess.
If I'm
Yeah.
going for spicy, I'll go to Church's.
I like churches a lot, actually. Um, I might like it even more than KFC. Really underrated. But
Yeah, that's true. Church's, and there's another one that I like very much.
not Popeyes.
Yeah, Popeyes.
Popeyes is pretty spicy. But
I
I
like
mean, it's interesting.
Popeyes.
Yeah.
I think I like Popeyes better than KFC. Plus, you can get jambalaya at Popeyes.
But you know what? Actually, my favorite chicken joint is. It's
Yeah.
actually El Pollo Loco. That is
Really?
my favorite. Absolutely, 100%. I love it. Grilled chicken.
You,
Mm.
you know the chicken joint that we used to use exclusively when I was a boy?
What?
It's none that we mentioned. It was Don't Cook Tonight, Try Chicken Delight.
Chicken Delight?
Chicken Delight.
Is that I feel like chicken tonight thing in the 90s? I feel like.
They might have done that.
Wow. Okay.
But I
Wow.
mean, you know who introduced me to Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Who?
Are you ready? Do you think you can take it?
Who? My brother? What? Who?
No, long before your brother. It was when I was quite the young boy, just out in Hollywood for a year, if that.
Criswell? I don't know.
Mrs. Criswell.
Oh, I was close.
You were close. Mrs. Criswell introduced me to KFC. Isn't that great?
That's nice.
And I met Colonel Sanders.
Wow.
The Boy Scout Jamboree in 1973. Yeah.
Wow.
In Farragut State Park, Idaho, he came because they had the commission on the chicken for all the scouts, and the chicken that we were given to fry, to cook, was all Colonel Sanders fried chicken.
Awesome.
So he reaped the advertising benefits out of that, I can tell you.
All right. Finally, during the period of Christendom, was it more historically accurate that wives have held a job to contribute to the household income, or was the 1950s American housewife more historically accurate than what we are living through today, where two incomes are almost a necessity?
Well, yes and no. I mean, there were places where it was rare that the wife would go out to have an outside job. But remember, the vast majority of people worked on the farm. So what the ladies did was, they'd make the food for their laboring husbands and sons. They would sometimes do, they'd take in knitting and all that kind of thing. They would sometimes do what was called piecework, which was textile work, weaving and all that kind of thing at home. It was called piecework because it wasn't done in huge factories. X number of houses, you would contract to do X number of whatever was being woven to the people who were buying it. And of course, there were things like washing and so forth that sometimes were done quasi-communally. And you got to remember that all of the housewifely tasks that we think of from the 50s, they were all done with labor-saving devices. Keeping a household running was very labor-intensive. So the woman was looking after the kids. She was cooking, but she didn't have any of the conveniences to cook. She didn't have any of the conveniences to clean. You see, it was a big job. And if you want actually some idea of what a pre-modern woman went through. I can recommend to you that you listen to the song Coal Miner's Daughter by Miss Loretta Lynn.
Yeah. Obviously, the washing was very different. We still have one of the old devices where I don't know. There's probably a proper term for it, but it's got ridges on. And
Yeah, it's a washboard.
Washboard. Yeah, and you scrub, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And they used to do that. In fact, just to prove my point, Coal Miner's Daughter, Miss Loretta Lynn, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Miss Loretta Lynn, the Coal Miner's Daughter.
And then we didn't have it. Obviously, there are no dryers, so then you're hanging everything up with clothespins.
Yeah, exactly. If you have them.
If you have them.
Let me see. Coal Miner's Daughter lyrics. Yeah, and she says, let me see. My daddy worked all night in the Van Leer coal mines, all day long in the field hoeing corn. Mommy rocked the babies at night and read the Bible by the coal oil light, and everything would start all over come break of morn. Daddy loved and raised 8 kids on a miner's pay. Mommy scrubbed our clothes on a washboard every day. Why, I've seen her fingers bleed. To complain there was no need. She smiled in Mama's understanding way. Thus saith Loretta Lynn. Miss Loretta Lynn, ladies and gentlemen, the Coal Miner's Daughter. I want to welcome you all here tonight at the Grand Ole Opry. Oh, sorry, wrong. Never mind. This isn't the Grand Ole Opry, is it?
No. All right, David asks, what are your thoughts on Rene Girard? I don't know if it's Girard or Girard.
Girard.
Okay.
Pronounce the G like a ZH.
Girard.
And then the final D is silent. Girard.
Girard.
Close. Well, anyhow, I really don't know his work well enough to comment on it. I've never read a single book he's written. So I'm afraid I'm a loser on that one tonight.
Sad.
I know.
All right, a question from Anita who says, question for Charles. I really like when you tell stories about your parents. Have you ever considered writing a book about your parents? I'd buy such a book even if it didn't get free if I didn't get free shipping and handling for it.
Wow, that is commitment. Well, I can tell you my father didn't work in the Van Leer coal mine. Nor did my mother read the Bible by the oil light all night. No, I mean, there's a lot of stories I could tell. I would never write a biography, an autobiography. But I can certainly say that more than any other single influence, my parents made me who I am. I think that's definitely true. Writing an account of them would be difficult because it would be hard to capture them. They were very alive. I mean, one of the things I noticed in comparison to so many of my friends' parents who were like, sort of along for the ride, kind of, is that my parents were very wide awake people. Very funny, very witty, sometimes biting humor. And they equipped my brother and me with the intellectual resources, you might say, to live in a world that despised everything we held. And a good part of the way they did that was, you sort of beat them to the punch. Oh, how could you believe that? Well, because I'm not a moron. How do you believe the crap you believe? Mind you, they wouldn't have put it quite that way, but that was the basic attitude.
Yeah.
And that I definitely picked up from them. And yet at the same time, They were fun to be with, and I loved them very, very much, and I miss them both very much every day. I think of them a lot. The older I get, I probably think of them more now than of course, mother hasn't been gone that long. She died in 2015. But yeah, the older I get, the more I think of them is a fair thing to say. And now I'm at a stage in life where I knew them when they were this age, and there are so many things I would like to ask them, and I can't. But I could no more write about them than I could write about myself. And as far as writing an autobiography goes, I recently discovered a negative response to the same question from an early 20th century female author. And I think it fit perfectly. What she said was, if I wrote what I think proper, if I wrote what I knew, it would be too scandalous to publish. And if I wrote what I thought proper, it would be too dull to read.
That's good.
Yeah, and it really is true. So,
all right. Final question for the pre-show from
yay!
From Micah, who says, I want to know your opinion on the show The Young Pope with Jude Law acting as a pope in his 40s, who's a more traditionalist stripe compared to the majority of the clergy who seem to be more of the Vatican II stripe. I think it's a story that shows how the youth in the church are having to approach the faith while it's being attacked from outside and within. Problems with homosexuality in the clergy, low church attendance, and the attacks by secular governments against the church, the young pope attacks them all and wins for the most part. I think it's a good message that the church doesn't need to modernize, just to assert its authority in this age.
Well, I mean, there certainly are some fun parts in the young pope. Certainly, the oration he gives the cardinals after he gets the tiara back is a traditionalist wish fulfillment dream. Literally a young pope telling the worthless elderly cardinals just what kind of garbage they really are. Yeah, you can see why you'd like that. But there's a lot of problematic bits to it, frankly. So I'm afraid it's not something I could really endorse wholeheartedly. But parts of it were a lot of fun. I didn't see the second or third series. I only saw the first. Now, mind you, in secular life, there's sort of an equivalent, which is the play turned television movie, King Charles III, in which Prince Charles succeeds his mother, and then is given a bill that he can't sign in conscience by the Prime Minister. So he ends up doing something that hasn't been done since Charles I's day. He dissolves Parliament. And this leads to a huge constitutional crisis. But the scene where he dissolves Parliament is like the scene where the young Pope gives it to the cardinals. A lot of wish fulfillment there. You just love to see these pieces of garbage kicked over the coals that way. But unfortunately, it's not likely to be something we'll see.
All right, that's it for the pre-show. Stay tuned for the full episode. Lots of great questions. A lot more content.
And get ready for your Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen. Stuffing. All right, quick question before we break.
Okay.
All right. Stuffing the bird. Real stuffing or with the breaded sausage stuff, whatever you use, or just an onion, carrot, celery placeholder?
Real stuffing. What? Like what? That's not even a question. I don't understand. Like.
All right. Well, just asking. Where do you stand on the green bean casserole issue?
I don't stand on it. I stand on
Get it out of
principle
here.
against it. Get it out of here. I want
Get it
meat.
out of here.
I want pumpkin pie and I want stuffing.
So you don't want the green bean casserole
No.
with the cream of mushroom soup and the fried onions, the crispy onions on top.
Sorry, no.
All right.
I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
Or meat and stuffing in this case. All right. God bless you. We'll see you all just in a couple of minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, ineffectual flailing. That's what our leadership stands for.
I forgot the yams. The yams. How could I forget the yams?
I don't know. You did, though.
Unbelievable. The yams. You need the yams. All right.
Are you going to see that movie?
Yes.
About the vegetarian serial killer?
What?
The Silence of the Yams?
Oh, gosh. All right.
Feel better now?
All right. Stay tuned for the full episode, everyone, where you can wipe that taste out of our mouth.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll see you shortly.